First of all, I would like to thank you for the chance of speaking here to all of you. My name is Damian Legawiec. I'm from Spark Solutions. It's an e-commerce software agency based in Warsaw, Poland. We work for clients such as PayPal, Goop, it's a Gwyneth Paltrow-owned website, and some other clients, mostly e-commerce ones, from US and UK. It's like 40 of us right now, and also besides client work, we also invest heavily in open source. Our crown jewel of open source work is Spree Commerce. I don't know if you heard of it, used it. Anyone? Oh, okay. Did it? That's nice. So to all of you that didn't use Spree or any heard of it, it's a Rails e-commerce framework. It's one of the biggest Rails projects on GitHub. It's 700 contributors. It's a modular API-driven e-commerce. We like to call it e-commerce framework, not e-commerce platform, compared to Magento or any other. It also has a large number of extensions, and it runs 1,000 stores worldwide. And it's a really old project. It's like 7 years old, and we started maintaining it last year. And this is our story of getting it up and running right now. So in a real world, Spree is used by companies like GoDaddy, Goop, as I mentioned earlier. Goop is a huge website. It's like 3 million visitors per month, and it's Casper. It's one of the hottest startups right now, selling mattresses. Bonobos is a clothing website, also huge in US. And some of our projects like Milan Style, it's a fashion e-commerce marketplace, really huge in UK. And Greetable, it's a nice little startup that sells thousands of products per day, mainly in US and Canada. And today we also want to release Spree 3.2 with Rails 5 support. Also changing the extensions for all of you that used Spree in the past, maintaining the extensions and getting them up and running with your own store was a pain. We're changing it right now, so any Spree store starting from Spree 3.1 will use universal extensions that will work with any Spree version in the future, and also working on Rails 4.2 and 5, and of course 5.1 when it's going to be released. And this is all. Those are only highlights of the Spree 3.2 release right now. So you can install it from Ruby Gems, of course. It's really easy. For Rails 4.2, you can use the older Spree version that we maintain. We're gonna maintain it for like 2 years after the initial release, because it's highly wide popular right now. And most of our clients use it on a daily basis. We also, before releasing the Spree 3.2 for Rails 5, we actually implemented it for 2 of our clients internally to test it out and, of course, develop it. So it's really stable. And, well, actually, if we can go back to the previous slide, as you can see, there's still the release candidate for Rails 5. Actually, it's like release candidate 3 right now. But especially for Wrocław, we're gonna release it live right now. Hope that the network is running. Okay. Fingers crossed. Please, God, work. Oh, and by the way, this modular thing, it wasn't a marketing or anything, so there's like 5 gems that you have to install to get the Ruby, sorry, to get the spree. Thank you, guys. that was unusual. Okay. Oh, and yeah, and by the way, there are some stickers for Spree 3.2 near the stickers tape.
Okay, I want to talk a few things about that Ruby is blazing fast. Make Ruby great again. Okay, it's maybe not blazing fast, but it's fast enough. And it also applies for Ruby on Rails. So I would like to share a few tips with you about how to build Ruby on Rails API. We will look at some benchmarks and also what we can do to speed it even more. So about the API. First thing, load only things that you need. So the Rails 5 have this API mode, but still you can, in many cases, skip some parts of Rails. Next, if you are using JSON API resources, do not inherit it from the controller provided by Rails, but use the JSON API resource controller metal. It is much lighter. And if you have a listing when you need include some modules, you can reduce the number of active record instances by just creating a view in the database. And using database right is usually the best place to speed up your app. We will be looking at very simple endpoint that return just a few records. And let's see the benchmark. I was doing on a single process, so one core was only working, and I flew the application with 10,000 requests. And the result was like that I get 250 requests per second. So the media is about 4 milliseconds per request, which is pretty good, I would say. So 250 requests per second, as I said, and 4 milliseconds per request as medium. Okay, but if 4 milliseconds is too long, then what can we do? So yeah, we can rewrite this in the great framework that appeared 2 weeks ago on NPM. Or we can use reverse proxy and think about this one heavy loaded endpoint in our API and only rewrite this part. And of course, we will do it in Ruby once again. This time we will use a little different stack. So we will use Sinatra, but all other things are very similar. So to get this up and running, you need 70 lines of Ruby. And it's okay for getting some pretty good results. So if we will run the same benchmark once again, we will get much more, and we see that requests are pretty stable. It's like 3 times more requests per second, and 3 times less waiting time. So we're going to 1,3 milliseconds, which is pretty awesome, I would say, for Ruby. Yeah. But you could ask, yeah, how it compared to Phoenix Elixir, yeah? Because there's no it here. Come tomorrow at 3 p.m. Thank you.
Today I want to every one of you to contemplate on the model. So, what is the model? I know he's an actor, but it's the best example of the model, right? He's just awesome. But let's not talk about him today. Oh, shit. Yeah. So what we think usually about the model is that it's our active record objects. So the things that we put to app models in our Rails applications. Or if we read a blue or red DD book, we also think about entities, value objects, services, or maybe even events. But model is not only about programming. Thinking about models is not only the programming part. We have also so many different models that we can think about forces that shape models and the models act like. So think about economic model. It's a construct that represents processes by a set of variables and some relationships between them. And the main question is, why do we want even the economic model? Is because we want to control it, we want to rationalize our choices. And the truth is that, by Nassim Taleb, is that all mainstream economic models are bullshit because they just don't give a shit about small probability of big disasters. There is also scientific model that try to represent some real world phenomena in terms of numbers or theorems, whatever. And why? Because we want to control. And it's pretty close to real world, so we can send rockets to the moon or something like that. What can we think about models and the forces in them is that when they are too abstract, they're easy to falsify with any edge case that you will find, and they might be irrelevant. So if you have your own application model, like from the domain that you work for your client, and it's too abstract, it doesn't work. It doesn't improve the business. And it's also the same for all the scientific and economic models. It just doesn't work, doesn't give a result. Incorrect model is hard to maintain in long term. It's like adding new concept just to describe really simple things in other model. Think about Ptolemaic model of world and universe and the heliocentric one. And you may struggle with this kind of stuff when you really fucked up in one moment when you work with your client. And the last one is the hardest one for me this year. Is when you want to try to be too close to the phenomena. So if you want to model everything with your software, because then you're super coupled with the business, with your model, and so it's hard to maintain. It also may be hard to understand. And so what? I don't know, like drink beers or vodka and think about it. Maybe you'll think about something, some new force, but yeah, that's it.
Hello, I'm Bartosz. I'm Ruby developer, like many of you. I'm really shy and I'm stressed, so I'm sorry. But I'd like to say something about my passion. My passion is learning. And recently, it was changed really much. Before, the mediums where I was learning were meetups and conferences. That's obvious, but they are pretty expensive sometimes. They don't happen too often, so there are some problems with that. Books. There are some great books where we can learn. That's pretty popular. We do it in school. That's natural for us. Blogs. Almost everyone runs a blog and publishes some good content or better content. How many of you run a blog? That's much. Okay. Vlogs and screencasts, the next medium of the internet. We have some awesome screencasts like Railscast, etc., etc. How many of you does something like that? No one. Less popular. Snapchat. It got popular lately. It got popular because some people started to use it to share programming knowledge. But title of my presentation was the new old medium, so it's not Snapchat. What do you think? What's the next medium? What I will talk about? No, that's podcasts. That's pretty old medium. Podcast became thing in 2004, I think. So that's many years, but they still not so popular like blogs. How many of you do you listen to podcasts? Wow, I'm amazed because no of my friends ever talked to me like, "Hey, I heard the awesome podcast. Here's the link, so let's listen to it." Okay, but why would we? It's probably the main reason is that they're easy to listen. We all have a podcast player in our pocket because our smartphones are best podcast players at the moment. There are awesome applications for Android and iOS, so everyone will find something. Listeners are really loyal to the podcast. They usually listen to all episodes. They leave comments. There are no haters among listeners. I don't know why. There are a lot of haters at YouTube or something, but on podcasts there is no. I haven't seen any hates on podcasters. That's true it in today's. And community is growing. From 2004, it's getting more and more popular. So you get more content and better content, I think. And I'd like to recommend some podcasts for Rubyists. That's Ruby Rogues. They have around 300 episodes already. They're running from 2011. Ruby 5, the short 5 minutes talks about Ruby. They're pretty fun to listen. Ruby on Rails podcast, that's next podcast I would recommend. You can find them anywhere on iTunes, I think. And the last one I would recommend, it's Andrzej on Software. He's, he's, he's here, so you can ask him about it. I think it's great. I'm fun. Thanks.
Hey guys, my name is Piotr or Peter. This is me on Twitter. I'm not going to explain my handle, but it's Polish Prince. It's a long story, but we only have 5 minutes. So I work at Labor Voices, and what we do is we help workers in garment factories in Turkey and Bangladesh, which is basically all the people that made of clothes, report on their working conditions, and we sell that data to the clothing brands. And about a year ago, we started working on creating a product that we sell as a subscription, and it's called Symphony. And we really needed to roll out something very quick. And I knew I wanted to build a distributed system. And first thing I started to look at was how to build an authentication that works across multiple systems. And everything was so difficult, and it would take me months. So I came across something called Auth0, wrong slide, Auth0, and also Stormpath. And these are basically, after using it for a year, I realized, why would I ever use Devise and run my own identity store, and why would I at all bother with this and expose myself to issues like Cloud Bleed, where if we were using a Devise or something like this with Rails, we would have had problems. So Auth0 is really cool, and they use something called JSON Web Tokens. Any of you heard about JSON Web Tokens? Everybody, that's fantastic. I don't have to tell you anything about it. But key things is 3 parts: the header, the payload, and the signature. And what's really awesome is that you can use an asynchronous key to decode that. So what I found really cool is that we have one Ember app that talks to multiple APIs built in Rails or in Grape and stuff. So so I can actually build multiple applications, and they can use the same client ID and client secret, and I'm done. I don't have to worry about a lot of the concerns that come with identity. So this is kind of how the dashboard looks for Auth0. You have kind of I don't want to show like our production data, but this is a separate instance. You can set up clients that there are 4 types. There's a native client, there's a single page app, and regular web application like Rails, and also a headless client that doesn't require a username and password, but allows you to connect, contact Auth0, get a token, and have your multiple applications talk to each other securely, and you can verify the tokens this way. So it cuts out a lot of work. Also, there are, don't want to cover integrations. The user can be stored in either their own databases, and you can do something really cool. We, for example, have an internal product for data management, and we have a client-facing product, and we separated the client users from internal users, so that in case somebody who compromised an account on the client side, on the public side, cannot access the internal system and screw us up. There's physically no way of doing it because the users are in completely separate databases. So that's also a cool feature of this. You can do social logins or with multiple providers, and enterprise logins as well, like Active Directory, etc. You can control your users from here, add them, etc. But they also provide management API that you can build your own application. It has to be server-side. Like a Rails app, this is what we have to provision users, to manage their roles, etc. And what's really cool also is that they have this, they allow you to get started very quickly, and they have this widget called Lock, where you can customize it, and it works really great with Ember and Angular, React, etc. They have lots of documentation, which is actually good. There are other services that don't have as good a documentation. So my bottom line was to tell you, consider not using Devise, consider not handling your own users, and taking on that risk and need for maintenance, especially for distributed systems. Consider Auth0, and if you don't like it, try Stormpath, and that's it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nicolas. My talk will be a little bit more low-tech than the previous ones. Give me a second. I'm from Germany. I won't tell you which company I'm working on because it will change next month, so it doesn't matter. I love making people's life easier, or at least more fun, so maybe today is one of these days. So I guess a lot of people of you work with Rails. Who works with Rails? Great. Who looks at the logs from time to time? Who likes the format of the logs? That's what I guessed. So what's the main problem? It doesn't have enough milk, does it? You might be confused. I love milk, and I think the logs should have more milk. So I brought up a solution. I invented it 10 minutes ago, so it might be still a little bit rough on the edges. Best is if I'm just going to show you. Is the same? Yes. You know the typical Rails log looks like this. Some random colors. Nobody knows what they mean. Sometimes they change. We don't know. So I thought I bring some more variants into it. This is just a Rails server, and if everything worked and I prepared for it, we should see some extra funny lockout. Come on. Come on, it should say the commit. I have a fast machine, sorry. So we ask a request, and there we go. So this works as a drop-in. You just add the gem to your gem file. Give me a sec. There. You just add it to your gem file bundle, and there we go. You can find it on my GitHub page. Have fun. Have a good time.